Honorables membres du comité,
Honorable members of the committee, I can say that there is quorum. Pursuant to Standing Order 106, as a clerk of the committee, I will preside over the election of the chair and the vice chair. I must inform members that the clerk of the committee can only receive motions for the election of the chair. The clerk cannot receive other types of motions, cannot entertain points of order, nor participate in debate.
pursuant to Standing Order 106-2, the chair must be a member of the government party. I am now ready to receive motions for the chair. Mr. Nur Mohamed.
Merci, Madame la greffier. Je vais présenter
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I suggest Ms. Zaid as the chair.
By Mr. Nur Mohamed that Ms. Zaid be elected as chair of the committee. Are there any further motions? Seeing none, I will now put the motion to the committee. It has been moved by Mr. Nur Mohamed that Ms. Zaid be elected as chair of the committee. Is it the pleasure of the committee to adopt the motion? I declare the motion carried and Ms. Zaid duly elected chair of the committee. I invite Ms. Zaid to take the chair.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your trust in me to be the chair of this committee, and I'm really looking forward to working with you all to make sure that we can do some meaningful work in this committee. So it is an honor to be the chair of this committee for all of you. Looking forward. So are all the committee members okay to proceed with the election of the vice chairs? Are we good? Okay, yes. I'll pass it on to the clerk.
Pursuant to Standing Order 106-2, the first vice chair must be a member of the official opposition. I am now prepared to receive motions for the first vice chair. Mr. O.
Hi, I'd like to nominate my colleague Tony Baldinelli to be vice chair.
It has been moved by Mr. O that Mr. Baldinelli be elected as first vice chair of the committee. Are there any further motions? Seeing none, I will now put the first motion to the committee. It has been moved by Mr. O that Mr. Baldinelli be elected as first vice chair of the committee. Is it the pleasure of the committee to adopt the motion? I declare the motion carried and Mr. Baldinelli duly elected first vice chair of the committee. Conformément à l'article 100.
Pursuant to Standing Orders 106-2, the second vice chair must be a member of an opposition party other than the official opposition. I am now prepared to receive motions for the second vice chair. Ms. Jacek.
Jonka.
Il est proposé par Madame Jacek que
It has been moved by Ms. Jacek that Mr. Blanchet-Jonca be elected as second vice chair of the committee. And are there any further motions? I will now put the first motion to the committee. It has been moved by Ms. Jacek that Mr. Blanchet-Jonca be elected as second vice chair of the committee. Is it the pleasure of the committee to adopt the motion? I declare the motion carried and Mr. Blanchet-Jonca duly elected second vice chair of the committee.
Thank you, Clerk. Congratulations to both the vice chairs. on your election and being appointed as the vice chairs. Before we continue, there are a few things which I need to say. So I would ask all in-person participants to consult the guidelines written on the cards on the table. These measures are in place to help prevent audio and feedback incidents and to protect the health and safety of all participants, including the interpreters. We also notice, you will also notice a QR code on the card which links to a short awareness video. So please have a look at that. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those participating by video conference, no one is doing that today, but for future purposes, click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourself when you are not speaking. For those on the Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, you can do the selection, the appropriate channel for interpretation, either Floor, English, or French. For those in the room, you can use the earpiece and select the desired channel. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. For members in the room, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. For members on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. The clerk and I will manage the speaking order as best as we can, and we appreciate your patience and understanding in this regard. If you are all in agreement, I would like to go into the next item, which we have to do. That is the adoption of the routine motions. The committee can adopt these motions one after the other in a group, or we can adopt them as a total group. Those motions, these routine motions have been adopted by PROC. And the first one on that is about the analyst services. So maybe I will read that so that we can have our analyst. That the committee retain as needed and at the discretion of the chair the services of one or more analysts from the Library of Parliament to assist it in its work. Is everyone in agreement on that? Okay, so we can have our analyst come up and take their seats. Okay, thank you. Now we will proceed to the other routine motions. What is the desire of the committee? That should they be adopted as a group, or it should be read one by one to adopt them? Yes, Mr.
Congratulations first, Chair, on your appointment. We all look forward to working with you. I would suggest that we could approve all of these, unanimous consent, if we have that, to adopt all the motions as a group.
Does all that? Thank you, Mr. Baldinelli. Do all the members have the routine motions? Okay. Do you want me to read it, or we will adopt them? Okay, so all the routine motions related to the subcommittee on agenda and procedure, meeting without a quorum, travel, time for opening remarks, questioning of witnesses, document distribution, working meals, travel accommodation and living expenses of witnesses, access in-camera meetings, transcripts of in-camera meetings, notice of motion, orders of reference from the House respecting bills, whips access to digital binders, and the maintenance of order and decorum. Is it the will of the committee to adopt all those motions? Okay, adopted. Yes, Mr. Noor Mohammed? Okay. So all the routine motions are adopted. Just yes, Mr. Talib Noor Mohammed, and then Mr. Baldinelli.
Madam Chair, I was going to suggest that given that if we have dispensed with all the items that are required, and given that there's obviously now work for you to do as the chair and for all of us to go back and start to think about, perhaps we can move to adjourn the meeting.
Is it the will of the committee to adjourn the meeting?
No.
No. Okay. No. Mr. Baldinelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as we are in committee business, I wanted to propose a motion which carries on some of the work from the previous Parliament with regards to two studies that were completed by the Science Committee, yet not tabled for government response. So I want to propose a motion which states this, and it's given the tireless work that committee members, staff, the clerk, analysts, and witnesses contributed to producing the following report, and given that the report was unable to receive a government response before Parliament was dissolved, that the committee adopt a report entitled Distribution of Federal Funding Among Canada's Post-Secondary Institutions and any corresponding supplementary or dissenting reports adopted during the first session of the 44th Parliament. That, pursuant to Standing Order 109, the committee requests the government to table a comprehensive response to the report, and that the chair present the report to the House.
Thank you, Mr. Baldinelli. So we have a motion on the floor? Yes. So we have the motion on the floor. Discussion. Ms. Jessic.
Yes, I would agree. As a member of this committee in the last Parliament, we certainly worked very hard on that report, and I would very much like to hear the government response to the work that we did.
Okay, so any other discussion? Seeing none, so do we have the will of the committee to adopt the motion as proposed by Mr. Baldinelli? Okay, all in favor? Okay, adopted.
I have a second motion that my colleague, Mr. Ritter, would like to read.
Thank you. So I have a notice of motion for Report 13. Given the tireless work that the committee members, staff, the clerk, analysis, and witnesses contributed to producing the following report, and given that the report was unable to receive a government response before Parliament was dissolved, that the committee adopt the report entitled Science and Research in Canada's Arctic in Relation to Climate Change, and any corresponding supplementary or dissenting reports adopted during the first session of the 44th Parliament. That, pursuant to Standing Order 109, the committee requests the government to table a comprehensive response to the report, and that the chair present the report to the House.
Sorry, for the need a clarification. So are you giving the notice for the motion, or you are moving the motion?
Moving.
I'm moving the motion.
Okay, just to be clear. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Ms. Jessic?
Again, we labored long and hard and came to some very interesting conclusions. And so yet again, I would concur that we would like to have a government response.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any other? So seeing none, is it the will of the committee to adopt the motion as presented by Madame De Ruyter? Yes. Okay. Everyone, all those in favor? Okay. Seeing everyone in favor, adopted. Okay. Any other discussion? Mr. Blanchet-Joncas.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je vous félicite pour votre élection.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Congratulations on your election. As a former member of this committee during the 44th Parliament, I would like to keep going on a study that has been forgotten about. So here is the motion. Pursuant to Order 108, we keep working on the study on funding in post-secondary institutions that will allow, in order to contribute to science and research in Canada, that the committee assess if something else should be done according to this, and that this be considered by the committee during this Parliament, and that we have at least 4 meetings on this topic before reporting to the House.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Ms. Jessic?
Yes. I will agree with MP Blanchet-Joncas that it was a very interesting study. I would say that we can continue with it. It was fairly, I would say, controversial in terms of some of the witness testimony that we did hear, and that I think we will have an opportunity to ask for some more witnesses to round out some of that discussion. So I would concur that we would need probably 4 more meetings of this committee to really have a well-balanced report to present to the House. So I would concur with that motion.
The motion is being distributed to all the members. Do the members need a few minutes to go through the motion, or is everyone okay to have a discussion on that?
I need time to go over.
Okay, so maybe I'll suspend the meeting for a few minutes so that members can have a look at the... Yeah, we'll suspend the meeting for 2 minutes so that members can read that, and then we can... The meeting is suspended. All the members of the committee in both official languages. Any discussion? Mr. Noor Mohammed.
So, Madam Chair, I think, obviously, being new to this committee, I have been given to understand that we've already had, I think, 5 meetings on this important study. I think we all recognize the importance of this study. There are other things I suspect are going to come our way in the fall and other areas of interest that we're going to want to cover. So I would suggest, if there is a willingness, that we move. We potentially would be open to amending to suggest 2 meetings, and then hopefully we can move forward and move on to other things that we want to discuss as well, and ensure we can get the response to this done in a timely fashion as well.
So, are you moving an amendment to the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So, can you please repeat the amendment you are proposing?
So I would simply keep the same and change the number 4 to 2. And that's really it.
Okay, so we have an amendment proposed by Mr. Noor Mohammed. So we will have to deal with the amendment right now. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Blanchet-Joncas.
Yes, that is my name. I just want to understand. A few minutes ago, unless I'm already amnesiac, my colleague said that 4 committee meetings were good because the study was important. I can understand that we may have different opinions, even in the government party. But I heard 4. I'm very open to hearing my colleague's amendment, but I would like him to explain. He wants to have 2 instead of 4 meetings. What is the reasons behind this amendment?
Any discussion? Mr. Baldinelli?
Of the opinion, I agree with my bloc colleague. The governing party's experienced member who was on the committee previously had indicated her support for 4 meetings earlier, and indicated, it was an interesting study that needed to be investigated. So I would suggest that that we keep this to 4 meetings, and I support the bloc motion to do so.
Ms. Jessic?
With all great respect for my colleague here, he wasn't here to hear the discussion, and I was, as was Monsieur Blanchet-Juncker. And quite honestly, I think to even refresh our memory of what had occurred, that 4 meetings is quite reasonable. I do understand the need for efficiency, but I think quite honestly that members of this committee will find it very interesting. There are so many criteria involved in the allocation of research funding, and so it is a complicated subject, and we certainly got a good sense of the diversity of opinion, but we didn't, I don't think, get anywhere near to making recommendations or feeling able to do so. So with all due respect to my colleague, I would say that 4 more meetings would not be unreasonable.
Thank you, Ms. Jessic. Mr. Noor Mohammed?
I mean, I find myself in a particularly interesting and perplexing situation here, where I think we should do 6 meetings. Look, I think this is I think this is a very important topic. It's a very important discussion. I am fully in support of the motion, as I said. The rationale for proposing 2 is that I suspect we're going to have an extremely busy fall, given that there are a number of new things that this committee is going to have the opportunity to discuss, particularly around artificial intelligence, digital transformation, digital innovation, things that are going to be coming its way. So my thinking, when I made the suggestion, was that we would be able to address this important matter, given that we have had lots of discussions about it, and then ensure that there's sufficient time for other things. What I would hate to see is for the study to get yet again hung up because there's something else important and another motion that comes up and the work never gets done on this. So if the will of the committee is to do 4, who the heck am I to argue? I just don't want us to see this thing end up hanging because then there's something urgent that replaces the important. That's all.
Mr. Mahal?
I think if we can make some sort of, and I agree with Noor Mohammed as well, and at the same time, given the complexity and the vastness of the issues that are in there, if we are, say, efficient enough to cover it before the 4 meetings, then why not? But if there is, if we need 4 meetings, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. So it should, as long as it has that flexibility to switch it either way, we should be okay with it.
That will be like, I really don't know about what testimonies have already been heard. I will look into it. But I think we should make a decision if we want to start with this study as we come back in the fall. We need to make a decision about the number of the meetings so that accordingly the number of the witnesses and the names of the witnesses can be given to the clerk so that they can plan and invite the witnesses for the study. So that is just my suggestion. I will work up to the will of the committee members. Whatever is the decision of the committee members, I will do that. No further hands. Seeing no agreement, maybe we can take a vote on the amendment proposed by Mr. Noor Mohammed.
I'm just going to withdraw the amendment. It's fine.
Do we have the unanimous consent for Mr. Noor Mohammed to withdraw that? Okay, so seeing agreement, we have dealt with the amendment, so we are back on the motion as presented by Mr. Blanchet-Juncker. So any discussion? Seeing none, Are the members in agreement to adopt this motion? Is everyone in favor? All those in favor? Okay, so the motion is adopted. Okay, yes, Mr. Neil Ho.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion that is very topical to the events of the House of Commons in the last week, yesterday actually. And the motion is this, that pursuant to Standing Order 108 sub 3, that this committee undertake a study on the existing research and the research that is currently ongoing on the capacity of Canada's power grid, or lack thereof, with respect to meeting the planned expansion of the government's new electric vehicle or EV mandate, which the Liberals voted in favor of on June 17, 2025, that is yesterday, and that the committee studied this matter for no less than 5 meetings, and that the committee report its findings to the House of Commons, and that pursuant to Standing Order 109, the committee requests that the government table a comprehensive response to the report.
Okay, so have you sent this motion? Have you given the...
We can.
Okay, so we will have to get the motion distributed to
Yeah.
all the members so that they can have a look. I'll give few minutes so that the motion is distributed in both official languages to all the members. Suspend the meeting for a few minutes so that the members can have a look. The meeting is suspended. order. So we have a motion which has been distributed to all the members. Motion has been moved by Mr. Ho. So any discussion? Mr. Noor Mohammed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I find this motion quite interesting because it starts to, I think, raise a series of constitutional questions in respect of jurisdiction. And I'm very, very curious, as a British Columbian, where the provincial government has set a mandate of 100% EV adoption by 2035. But I think more importantly, for the purposes of this conversation, the fact that the government of Quebec has also indicated they intend to get to 100% EVs by 2035 in a tiered program. I'm very, very curious how this conversation, philosophical in nature, particularly when there are provincial issues at play, jurisdictional issues in play in respect of what provincial grids look like, provincial hydro corporations are actually doing to support this, why this isn't something that the Conservatives would want provincial governments to take up as part of their own conversations in Quebec, in British Columbia, and to challenge, for example, the government of Quebec as to why they think it's a good idea to do this, because this is not necessarily a federal issue in the way in which it's currently being characterized in this particular motion. Provincial governments have a profound responsibility and profound trust that requires them to think these things through. And I would be particularly interested to hear from my bloc colleague about how he intends to rationalize, how we would rationalize this conversation and challenge the sovereignty of the government of Quebec on this particular issue, where they've made it abundantly clear that as part of their commitment to the environment, their commitment to ensuring that we are fighting climate change, something that we certainly believe on this side of the table. Why playing gotcha politics on something like this helps assert the important moves that the government of Quebec, in my case, the government of British Columbia and others have made in trying to fight climate change in terms of increasing EV adoption, incentivizing people to do this. Quebec, I think, has put in place a policy where they intend to have one EV charger per 16 EVs. Now, I can't imagine that Hydro-Québec, which has done incredibly smart work in this area, would be making those decisions without having thought this through. So if we want this to be a discussion where we bring provincial hydros and we can start with Hydro-Québec and grill them, I don't know that serves anybody's purposes in trying to do what I think many of us, especially if we look at the vote in the House yesterday on the defeat of the Conservative motion, why we would want to go down this road. So we intend not to support the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Noor Mohammed. We have Mr. Baldinelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I thank my colleagues, Maura, my colleague, for his comment. I believe we can propose a friendly amendment that could answer some of the questions of my bloc colleague and assure him of some of the concerns that he's raised to me, and I'll propose that after some of my comments. But, I mean, Madam Chair, what we're doing is we're responding to an issue that the government has mandated, and we're responding to the questions and concerns that have been expressed to us as parliamentarians across this country. Not only are individual constituents responding to us, but I'm also hearing from the major auto producers, from Ford, from General Motors, who have great concern with this government's EV mandate and have asked the government to backtrack from its position. I mean, in fact, the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association has come forward stating that the government is wrong with its EV mandate position. It's essentially saying with the U.S. tariffs now in place, it said, and I mean, it's quoted, it's on X, they said pursuing that policy with the American tariffs in place would be like putting the puck into one's own net. And I agree with him. I've got a GM V8 engine facility just next door to my riding in St. Catharines. And I've also have one that is local just in Tonawanda, New York, which is not even a 30-minute drive away. GM just made the largest engine investment it's ever made, $888 million, into the facility in Tonawanda, New York. And you know what, Madam Chair? We make the exact same engine as they do in Tonawanda. It's the V8 that goes into the Silverado, and we make a Silverado in Oshawa. And what has GM done? they've shut down a third shift in Oshawa. And you know what, Madam Chair? My GM facility in St. Catharines is 2 million square feet in size. I had the pleasure of working there for 4 summers as a student, as a university student. They put me through university. And you know what? I'm brand loyal because of it. And the vehicle I drive today is a 2022 Buick Enclave. Its engine was made in St. Catharines. The vehicle was manufactured in Michigan. And what happened recently? General Motors removed that V6 engine line from St. Catharines with the hope that one day they would pursue EV engines. Well, guess what? They put that on hold. Ford Motor Company has put on hold EV production at Oakville, and in fact is going back to ICE engine production and vehicle production in Oakville because the demand by consumers is not there. And what is challenging for the auto sector in Canada is the jobs that are going to be impacted. The United States, through its tariffs, and this president, he's made it abundantly clear that his job is to ensure that auto workers are employed in the United States and not in Canada. So why is it that this government is helping them do that? What we're doing is we're driving investment, auto investment, out of Canada. General Motors just made another $4 billion announcement taking jobs out of Mexico and returning them to Michigan. Why is it that this government, through its policies and pursuing this EV mandate, is almost complicit in helping Donald Trump to achieve what he's looking to do, which is return jobs to Michigan? Well, you know what, Madam Chair? I want to ensure that there's still good paying auto sector jobs in Southern Ontario. There was a report in the Globe and Mail just the other day that said we are at risk of losing 50,000 auto worker jobs. That would be devastating for the Canadian economy. And you know what? Since the 1960s, the success of the auto sector in both Canada and the United States was based on the regulatory harmony that existed between both countries from the Auto Pact on. And what that regulatory harmony was looking at was both countries, what they did, in a sense, was they controlled what came out of the tailpipe. They didn't regulate what the consumer purchased in terms of vehicle. They regulated the environmental standards that needed to be pursued. And both countries agreed to that. And they then left it to not only the consumer to decide, but the manufacturer to then get in line to do that. We are nowhere near that with this EV mandate. Ford and GM, even Honda, they're telling us not to pursue this. And it's astounding to see a government continue to pursue something that's going to fail so miserably. And then what we're seeking to do is saying, do we even have the capacity here, for example, in Ontario, to be ready for that? I know the Independent Electricity System Operator in Ontario, they did a report in December of 2023. And that report dealt with what is it going to take for Ontario to get to net zero as a province in terms of electrical production. The federal government tried to say to the provinces, let's do it by 2035. Well, guess what? That was simply impossible. And the provinces let the federal government know that. Well, in that report, it said in Ontario, it's going to take us to 2050 to get there. And it was going to cost $400 billion to do so. And that would take us from 42,000 megawatts to 88,000 megawatts. And the Ontario government is doing it. It's pursuing small modular reactors, for example. That's a key policy plank. And you know what? I'm pleased that they're doing that. I've got companies in my riding, such as ES Fox, that are going to be important companies that are helping to build that out. But as of today, we are in no position to be ready for a 100% vehicle mandate. And so that's why we put forward this motion, Madam Chair. And I think we can propose a friendly amendment to answer some of the concerns that my Bloc colleague and to my Liberal friends concerns earlier on about maybe some of the concerns so that we look at the issue without touching upon the jurisdictional issues that he had mentioned earlier on. And so I think we can get there. And with your support, and I would want to maybe propose that friendly amendment now if I could.
Please.
So I want to go forward with this, and I think we can make the motion read this. That pursuant to Standing Order 1083, the committee undertake a study on the existing research and the research that is currently ongoing with respect to the planned expansion of the Liberal government's new EV mandate, which they voted in favor of on June 17th, 2025, and that the committee study this matter for no less than 5 meetings, and that the committee report its finding to the House of Commons, and that, pursuant to the Standing Order 109, the committee requests that the government table a comprehensive response to the report. So that would be my amendment.
Thank you. So we have an amendment. Okay, I'll read it. Okay, I'll read it. So the amendment is to add after, in the second line, after the currently ongoing with respect to, and delete on the capacity of Canada's power grid or lack thereof. So the motion would read as that pursuant to Standing Order 1083, the committee undertake a study on the existing research and the research that is currently ongoing with respect to the planned expansion of the Liberal government's new EV mandate, which they voted in favor of on June 17, 2025, and that the committee study this matter for no less than 5 meetings, and that the committee report its finding to the House of Commons, and that pursuant to Standing Order 109, the committee requests the government table a comprehensive response to the report. So we have an amendment on the floor. Mr. Noor Mohammed.
Madam Chair, an amendment is not supposed to materially alter the nature of the motion. So the motion initially sought to discuss the power grid. It's now gone from discussing the power grid to a philosophical debate about the EV mandate. So if the research component of this and the motion initially talked about the capacity of the power grid, and we've now removed entire reference to the thing that the study was about, that's a new motion, Madam Chair. That's no longer an amendment to an existing motion because the materiality of the motion has changed completely. So I think that motion is actually, the amendment is inadmissible.
Just give me a second. Let me consult with the clerk. We have an amendment, and in regards to looking at the amendment which has been proposed, my ruling is that the amendment changes the purpose of the original motion, so I would rule it out of order, the amendment which has been proposed. Further, this is out of order, so we are back on the motion as presented by Mr. Ho. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so seeing no debate, is it the will of the committee to adopt the motion? No. Do we take a vote? I will ask the clerk to take a vote.
So, Ms. Zakic? Jazik, my apologies.
No.
Ms. McKelvey? Mr. Nur Mohammed?
No.
Mr. Arana?
No.
Mr. Baldinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Ms. Ho? Mr. Ho?
Yes.
Mr. Mahal?
Yes.
Monsieur Blanchette-Jonca?
Contre.
Yes pour 4-4, nays contre 5-5.
Mr. Ho?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make another motion in connection with this, and I find it kind of ironic that Mr. Talib Nur Mohammed talked about jurisdictional issues and BC and Quebec having purportedly their own mandate, but yet yesterday they went out and asserted federal jurisdiction on. So I just find it kind of ironic that the words.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
But anyway, I'd like to continue
Mr.
the
Nur Mohammed?
motion.
Madam Chair, I know the member is new, but I think it's important that we follow the rules of the committee, and of course decorum is important, the Christmas representation of what was said, and the facts is laid out. I think this is an important, it's an important one. I don't know what the rationale is. There's a motion to be presented to present the motion, but the preamble to the motion can't be Mr. Nur Mohammed. Mr. Nur Mohammed did X or Y, and the vote was X or Y. So.
Wait. Okay, so Mr. Ho?
I'll continue with just the motion. So I move that pursuant to Standing Order 108 sub 3, the committee undertake a study on the existing research and the research that is currently ongoing with respect to the planned expansion of the Liberal government's new electric vehicle mandate, which they voted in favor on June 17, 2025, that is yesterday, and that the committee study this matter for no less than 5 meetings, and that the committee report its findings to the House of Commons, and that pursuant to Standing Order 109, the committee requests that the government table a comprehensive response to the report. That's all.
Just a minute. I'll suspend the meeting. I just need to consult the clerk on this, so I'll suspend the meeting for 2 minutes. Moved by Mr. Ho, so I hope everyone has looked at that motion. Any debate? On the motion which has been moved by Mr. Ho. Mr. Ho.
My colleague can start first, if he has something to say. Yeah, so referring back what was said before on the debate of the other motion, I find it ironic that the Liberal members of this committee is talking about jurisdiction when they just asserted federal jurisdiction just yesterday through a vote in the House of Commons. So I find it kind of rich that you're talking about EV mandates in British Columbia and Quebec when they just imposed one yesterday. One that's pretty drastic, one that would require hundreds of billions of dollars of investment to support the grid and the infrastructure. And we understand that will require working with multiple levels of government to deliver. And one that would add $20,000 to the cost of a new vehicle for everyday consumers. We know how out of touch the Liberals are, but $20,000 is a lot of money to the average family. It would risk 40,000 auto sector, good paying auto sector Canadian jobs. Many of them are in the ridings of members of this committee. And those are jobs that we will never get back if this, so we want to understand more about the effects of this EV mandate and to see if there's additional research that could see if this Liberal government has implemented on Canadians, a mandate that Canadians did not ask for.
Thank you, Mr. Ho. Next, we have Mr. Noor Mohammed, and after that, Madam Jessic. Mr.
I'll go after.
MP Jessic.
Thank you, Chair. This is the Science and Research Committee, and what I'm hearing from the members opposite relates much more to government policy rather than intense investigation of research on which that policy is potentially based. It is, in my view, not appropriate for study in this particular committee. It potentially could go to another committee that looks more broadly at industry or something like that. But this committee has to date, and I speak advisedly because I've been on it for a number of years, we ask for witnesses to come in front of this committee who are experts in research, scientific research, to give us their findings, and we create recommendations in relation to those findings. And the way this motion has been presented, it simply, in my view, does not fit within the mandate of this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Noor Mohammed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of things. My friend opposite may be surprised to know that his home province of Ontario also has a 100% EV mandate by 2035. So he also may want to have this discussion with arguably the most popular conservative in the country, Doug Ford. I know that there's a lot of grasping at straws on the other side for meaning. One of the areas of meaning might be to reflect on why it is that Canadians from coast to coast to coast elected a Liberal government, because he's using words like out of touch. The reality is that the party that's out of touch is the party that has no interest in dealing with climate change, the party that has clearly proven that they have no understanding of where the will of the voters actually is in terms of the agenda to build a stronger country, investments in building the type of infrastructure this country requires and needs, in partnership with provinces run by conservatives like Doug Ford, who have an eye on building a strong economy and helping deal with climate change, on New Democrats like David Eby in British Columbia, like the Premier of Quebec and his government. So one of the key elements of federal laws and federal rules is to reflect what is actually happening in provinces. We're going to talk about jurisdiction. Power grids in this country are supplied by provincial power suppliers. And so if we're going to be talking about research in that area, and that seems to be what the member opposite wants to do, I would encourage him to talk to the Doug Ford government, given that he represents a riding from Ontario. Or if he has concerns about what Quebec is doing, work with his Bloc colleague to sort of interrogate what the government of Quebec is doing. But the reality is, as Madame Jazik pointed out, in this committee, this is not where we need to be having this discussion, first of all. Second of all, if we're going to have a thoughtful, intelligent discussion about electric vehicles in this country, why don't we actually think about the way in which Canadians have overwhelmingly chosen to make these moves, why it is that battery production has something that this country has begun to lead on. Because what Conservatives are trying to use this committee to do, Madam Chair, is to play gotcha politics with science. The realities of the way the world is moving is that electric vehicles, electrification, is something that is not or should not be a partisan issue. If Conservatives in Ontario, New Democrats in British Columbia, the government of Quebec, the government of the United Kingdom, both under Conservatives and Labour, the European Union, where you have a wide range of political views represented, my goodness, even India and China are talking about moving aggressively towards electrification and electric vehicles and putting in mandates that are far more aggressive than provinces and this country have done, then I think the real questions we need to be asking about is why Conservatives don't see this as an important move forward. Again, we're talking about the motion yesterday. Gotcha policy motion was defeated by members of parliament who represent every single province and territory of this country. So we're calling all of those folks out of touch. That's remarkable. We're at a place right now in this committee where we have the choice to decide if we want to entertain motions that are going to be gotcha politics or actually deal with the type of science and research questions that this committee has done in the past, that I know the Bloc is very interested in conducting, that we are certainly interested in doing, and I know there are members of the Conservative Party who are not ideologues would also like to see being done. So, Madam Chair, in the first instance, this motion shouldn't be in this committee for the very nature of the way in which the motion has been presented. But I think there's also a philosophical question about why it is that we're trying to avoid a jurisdictional conversation when, in fact, the reality of this motion presents us with the requirement to interrogate Hydro-Quebec, to interrogate Ontario Hydro, to interrogate BC Hydro, to call into question the policies of the government of Quebec, to call into question the policies of the government of Ontario, where I suspect a whole lot of Conservatives aren't super happy with doing that. So if that's what they want to do, Madam Chair, great, but I don't think that's certainly the will of this committee. I don't think it's the mandate of this committee, and I fairly certain it doesn't reflect the overwhelming majority of where Canadians placed their votes in the last election.
Thank you, Mr. Noor Mohammed. Mr. Mahal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to touch upon two issues. The jurisdictional issue, my friend on the other side of the table is keep referring to. My difference is when the Liberals proposed this change, pushing Canadians for EV vehicles mandate, it's not a black and white thing now. It's not just, you cannot push everything on the provinces that, okay, this jurisdiction belongs to the provinces, so we cannot talk about these issues in this committee. Yes, we can talk about anything on this committee if it has any ancillary effects on the federal government. Announced it that they are going to go strong on EV mandate. They are going to penalize normal Canadians with $20,000 per vehicle if they have to make that choice, if they don't want to go for EV vehicles. We want to make sure that the provincial grids are strong enough, or what arrangements the federal government is going to make sure that the provinces are ready for it. That is my difference from the member on the opposite, that it's not per se a black and white issue that, okay, this is a provincial jurisdiction we should not be talking about in this committee. The second, it's not clearly an industrial thing. When we are getting, the Liberals are pushing to take combustion engine out of the market. It is a science issue. The technology, the innovation of battery cells, it's a science issue. It's not an industry thing, in my opinion, and we should also be mindful of that. Thank you.
Mr. Ho.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is a lot of research conducted on EVs, and this committee wants to understand more of it. Many Canadian universities have begun and studied this, and the research could be quite broad. It could be perhaps understanding whether EVs are appropriate in rural areas in this country. It could study, whether there are the charging stations and network that support having that many EVs on the road in urban areas in the country. And this just looks like a case of liberal hypocrisy time and time again, and this is just a prime example of it. The Liberals just voted for a federal EV mandate yesterday. And now they want to shut down this committee's call to conduct additional research on it. That's just hypocrisy. This is 1 day later, 24 hours later. And then they raise issues about, if I'm not mistaken, Liberal members of this committee raising, oh, it's not the right committee. Well, does that mean if it was on a different committee, you would vote in favor of it? And starting to talk about jurisdiction. And again, we're not encroaching on the jurisdiction of the provinces. Unlike the Liberals, we respect the Constitution. And if there's a party against research, it sounds like it's the Liberals, because they're voting against conducting research on, a mandate that they just imposed on Canadians, one that they're not calling for. And we're not against EVs. I know a member, Liberal member there wants to sling mud at us and say conservatives don't support EVs. We support consumer choice. We're simply against the mandate that taxes Canadians, that restrict consumer choice, and that kills tens of thousands of jobs permanently, quite potentially permanently. And so we want to have an honest discussion.
Sorry for
about
interrupting, Mr. Ho. If you can move your mic a little further, because it's creating a little further the other side.
I'm almost done. So we just want to conduct
the other side, the other way, move farther than
we want to conduct.
It's creating popping sound.
Thank you. So again, to impose a mandate that could cost hundreds of billions of dollars on Canadians and on the economy, it's fair, it's reasonable to call for additional research to see whether it's even realistic. I find it quite, just another classic example of Liberal hypocrisy, where, they vote for something yesterday, 24 hours later, they want to shut it down. So which one is it? Thank you, Madam Speaker, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ho. Mr. Blanchet-Joncas.
Oui, merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Bloc's position is the following. First, Quebec did not wait for Ottawa to adopt a net zero emission policy. That's the first thing. I'm open to a study on broad research on EVs. But first, we don't think we can do a study on a federal mandate that is already infringing on Quebec's jurisdiction. My Conservative colleagues and my Liberal colleagues must understand that. I'm all for talking about research, about innovation on EVs and other topics, but to conduct a study on a mandate that Quebec had already under its own jurisdiction is not something we can support. I hope I was clear for my colleagues. We will not support anything, including on the grid's capacity, that is a jewel of Quebec's economy, and I'm talking about Hydro-Quebec. Sure, I can talk, but this is the Bloc's position.
I just want to go back to one of the points that one of the Liberal members of this committee mentioned about it should be in a different committee. I mean, I'm going to read from what the mandate of this committee, and it's one of the committee mandates is to review the reports of the Chief Science Advisor. And, one of the things that the Chief Science Advisor does is to study EVs. So, again, this is fully within the mandate. We understand that perhaps other aspects of it could be studied in a different committee, and there could be overlap. But this is certainly something that falls within the purview of this mandate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ho. Seeing no further debate, we will have a vote. Madam D. Ryder.
I just wanted to mention that this is a broad view of a study that could be completed on all electrical vehicle components. So, for example, just in my region alone, the U of W has launched Research Center for Electric Vehicle Batteries, and so the battery research as a component to this would be helpful to understand and know. So I would like to just reiterate that this is a broad view of EV research, all components, and agree with Vincent on the fact that it could be a study in a range of what's required in order to support the EV move and the technology.
Thank you, MP De Ryder. So seeing no further debate, I'll call for the vote. I'll ask the clerk to please take the vote.
Ms. Jacek?
No.
Mrs. McKelvey?
No.
Mr. New Mohammed?
Nope.
Mr. Reyna? No. Mr. Baldinelli?
Yes.
Ms. De Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. Ho?
Yes.
Mr. Mahal?
Yes.
Monsieur Blanchet-Jonca?
Contre.
Yeas pour 4-4, nays contre 5-5.
So the motion is defeated. Okay, Ms. Jacek?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There was another study that we did vote on in the previous Parliament that we were going to study at this committee regarding antimicrobial resistance. And I think there was certainly in the previous Parliament some enthusiasm to go ahead with that. So I have a motion to propose that pursuant to Standing Order 10831, the committee study antimicrobial resistance, known as AMR, including 1, resistant organisms, 2, what is driving an increase in AMR, 3, clinical and economic impacts of AMR in Canada, and 4, what is needed to support research for new antimicrobial agents, non-pharmacological strategies to eliminate or modify AMR bacteria, new methods of antibacterial drug identification, and strategies that neutralize virulence factors, and that the committee allocate a minimum of 6 meetings to the study, and that the committee report its findings to the House.
Thank you, Ms. Jacek. So we will have the motion distributed to all the members. I'll suspend the meeting for 2 minutes so that members can get the motion in both official languages. The meeting is suspended. Email. So, any debate? Debate? I'll.
I'm just getting it on my. I just got it.
Okay.
1 more minute of that being.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I hope all the members have read the motion. Mr. Baldinelli?
If I may, Madam Chair, and I defer to the expertise of my colleague with regards to the study in itself. But I mean, we just spoke earlier and turned down a motion to request saying that the study didn't fit within the Science Committee. Would this not, and the proposal for this motion, not fit better with the Health Committee?
That's certainly a question that is relevant for sure. It goes way beyond actually human health. The use of antimicrobials is very prevalent in the veterinary profession. It impacts in terms of economics as well. It's a complicated question, but it goes well beyond human health, which is closely the mandate of the Health Committee. And I would like to emphasize that your predecessors on this committee were, in fact, quite enthusiastic to pursue this.
Thank you, Ms. Jessic. Mr. Ho?
The Liberals just shot down a motion studying something that NSERC provides funding for, which, in my view, it falls under the purview of this committee. Would this motion fall under health? You mentioned about economic implications, so perhaps the commercialization of this research. So would that not fall under industry? You also talked about vets using it. So would that not fall under maybe something like the regulation of, of professions, again, more economy focused, and perhaps fall under health as well? So, we find that this is just not under the purview of this committee. So it's, again, another case of liberal hypocrisy because they just voted against. They're laughing for the viewers at home.
Point of order, Madam Chair. Point of order, Madam Chair.
Point of order, Mr. Noor Mohammed.
Again, I know the member is new, and I recognize that he is already falling into the conservative trap of using committee to get clips, as he just pointed out. I think it's important for you to get, I think, the personal sort of nature of the comments.
Sorry.
Thank you. Before I was, that point of order was rather condescending, which again fits the, character of most members of Liberal this committee. But anyways,
I would request not to pass comments
right.
like that
And then
for the respective.
Thank you. Well, anyway, I finished saying my point. But again, it seems like it falls under a different committee.
Seeing no further debate, Mr. Baldini.
And again, just to my colleague, with regards, and she answered the questions perfectly. It's just, is this something that you would believe requires 6 meetings? Or is there something that could be done in 4? Because that seems like a lot of meetings.
All the questions should be directed through the chair.
Through you, Chair. I apologize.
Are you proposing that as an amendment?
No, first of all, just a question, because she had sat previously on the committee, and my colleague from the bloc as well, just to get his input, because they both sat on that committee. You had indicated both that the former Conservative colleagues found interest in this. I'm just saying whether or not this is something that requires 6 meetings to have and hold.
Would Ms. Jessic like to add to it?
I think, Mr. Baldinelli, as you become used to this committee, that you'll find that we have just such an exceptional research community in Canada, that there is great eagerness to come and explain exactly their positions. And so, quite honestly, 6 meetings, I think you'll find they'll go very rapidly, and that they will be of great interest to you. And this was the decision previously that we came to a consensus on in the previous Parliament.
Thank you, Ms. Jessic. Mr. Mahal?
Madam Chair, if I may move to adjourn the meeting now, if that's...
Are you calling,
to adjourn the meeting.
Do we have the unanimous consent?
Madam Chair, I would prefer that we make a decision on my motion.
Call the question.
I call the question.
Blanchet-Joncas.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Juste vous exprimer mon point de vue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, thank you for your understanding, because I took a bathroom break. I'm open to the study. It was already mentioned. I wanted to know if there was any other committee that has the purview to study this topic. I'm thinking, isn't 6 too much? Maybe we can start with 4 and then go to 6. We know that this is going to set a precedent, and then everybody would like to have 6 meetings. So maybe the analysts can tell us what we've done in the past with other parliaments. It can guide us.
We'll get the input from the analyst.
Yes, I will just need a couple of minutes to look at the previous work of the committee to know how many meetings we used for previous studies, if you want a precise answer.
Mr. Mahal had raised his hand. Mr. Mahal?
Yes, Madam Clerk, thank you. Madam Chair, thank you, sorry. Since my colleague on this side and Block raised an issue that it might be, it's so similar to the Health Committee or other committee that might be appropriate for this job. If my friend on the other side can perhaps answer, have they checked with the other committees? They might be working on the same, we don't want to waste our resources on the same thing if 2 committees are doing it.
Thank you, Mr. Mahal. Ms. Jessic?
Through you, Madam Chair. In fact, I did discuss this with members on the Health Committee, and they felt quite, as I do, that the fit is better here because it's not just an impact on human health.
Mr. Ho?
Given that there's such a intense debate, enthusiastic debate on what, which committee this should be on, we should probably go back and look at whether this is the appropriate committee. I know you've had that discussion, Helena had that discussion, but maybe it's something we consider. So I want to make a motion to adjourn the meeting, and I believe it's by majority, not by unanimous consent. Thank you.
We are having a debate, so we have Ms. D. Ryder and then Mr. Noor Mohammed.
I just wanted to, for ease of efficiency, it was brought up earlier about, Mr. Mohammed brought up that we might have other things come forward in the fall, so maybe we go to 4 meetings and then go from there. That's all I have.
Mr. Noor Mohammed?
I want to thank my colleague across. If we're willing to say start with 4, and if we can get it done in 4, we're certainly open to that.
Okay, so are you proposing an amendment, Mr. Noor Mohammed? Are you proposing an amendment?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
amendment
so
to 4 meetings.
We have an amendment by Mr. Noor Mohammed that it be 4 meetings. Okay.
First of all,
Mr. Baljanili.
And we'll get there. But first of all, my colleague had moved a motion to adjourn. Does that not force a vote immediately, Madam Chair? It's not a unanimous consent. Does that not then impose upon you the requirement to then hold a vote to adjourn the committee?
Can we get the clerks to research it?
Yeah, so he moved it, but there was, sorry for that, without calling the vote, but there was no consent. So they said no. Some members of the committee said no, so that's why we did not go to that.
But does it require unanimous consent to move to move a motion to adjourn?
It has to go to a vote. So, but there
let's
were.
go to the vote.
Let's go to the vote then. Yeah, that's what we're going to a vote.
So we have I would just to have order, please. Okay, so we went through that. Sorry, the vote was not called, but we had no from the other side. Right now, we have the motion, and let's vote on that, and then go for that.
Point of order,
we
Madam
have the
Chair.
vote.
Madam Chair, point of order, though. We are in debate. We have speakers on the list. You can't call to adjourn the meeting while we are in the middle of debate.
Right now, we have the motion on the floor. You are proposing an amendment. Let's deal with it, and let's go into that. I'll request all the members to please speak through the chair. And we have an amendment of reducing it to 4 meetings. So, any discussion on the amendment? Mr. Noor Mohammed?
Just to say, I want to thank Ms. Ryder for offering that suggestion, and we're happy to make that amendment on the basis of her recommendation.
Okay, so all those in favor of the amendment proposed by Mr. Noor Mohammed? Okay. We are good. So we have the motion on the floor as amended. Any debate? Saying no, we will go for a vote. I will ask the clerk to please take the vote on the motion as amended.
Ms. Jazik?
Yes.
Ms. McKelvey?
Yes.
Mr. Noor Mohammed?
Yes.
Mr. Reyna?
Yes.
Mr. Baldinelli? Yes. Madame de Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. Ho?
Yes.
Mr. Mahal?
Yes.
Monsieur Blanchet-Jonca?
Pour.
Yes pour 8, 9, 9, nays contre 0, aucun.
The motion as amended is adopted. Mr. Noor Mohammed.
In the spirit of my colleague across, I'd like to move to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, we will go into a vote. Take a vote.
Ms. Jazik?
Yes.
Ms. McKelvey?
Yay.
Mr. Noor Mohammed?
Oui.
Mr. Reyna?
Yes.
Rana, my apologies. Mr. Baldinelli?
Yes.
Madame de Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. Ho? Yes. Mr. Mahal?
Yes, please.
Monsieur Blanchet-Jonca?
Oui.
Yes pour 9, 9, nays aucun.
So meeting is adjourned. Have a nice summer.
Thank you.